Hi, everybody. Rich Gibbons with SpeakInc, and today we're here with none other than Vernice Armour, better known as Fly Girl.
Yeah.
Fly Girl. So good to be with you.
I'm a hugger. Bring it in.
Bring it in.
Yeah.
All right, bring it in.
We crossed the 50-yard line, but
we did. I intentionally, we were downstairs. Vernice just finished up a keynote down in the ballroom, and I intentionally have not said one word to her about what I thought about it.
And I haven't said one word to him, asking him questions about it.
Exactly. So for those out on the interwebs that are not familiar with your backstory, just give like a 30-second kind of CV on your background and how you came to the platform.
Gotcha. So I was a cop right here in Nashville for several years. I wanted to be a cop since I was 4 years old. Got involved in ROTC, saw a black woman in a flight suit, got excited about being a pilot, became a Marine, went through flight school, did 2 tours in Iraq. While over there, Oprah calls me up and says, "Did you know that you were the first black female combat pilot?" I'm like, oh my God, right?
That's how you learned?
That's how I learned.
Really?
Now, I knew I was the first black female pilot in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
As soon as, when I was going through the process that there hadn't been one yet. But as far as combat pilot in all the services in U.S. history, didn't know that. So 2 separate things, right? Got out, wrote a book. Why did I write the book? Because people were asking me, how did you do this? Because I was the first woman of color on motors. I was the first black female police officer for the Tempe Police Department after leaving the Nashville Police Department. First black female pilot in the Marine Corps, and then America's first black female combat pilot. I didn't go out for any of that stuff. I was just trying to live a fun, amazing, juicy life and ended up doing that kind of stuff. They were asking me, how did I create the breakthrough, essentially, which is why the book is Zero to Breakthrough. Many people want to create the breakthrough. Most people want to create a breakthrough in life. They just don't know how. Right. So I wrote the book. And Zero to Breakthrough, the 7-step battle-tested method for accomplishing goals that matter. And here I am.
And that, I feel like there's so many audiences out there that they want to hear concepts, ideas, and messaging from people who've actually done it. Like they have something in their pedigree, their background. There's a bit of gravitas around like, hey, I've embraced this mindset, this technique, this concept, and it works. It worked for me, and here's what you can take away. And I'm sure you see that in the venues you address.
Yeah, and what you're tapping into now is exactly what organizations want. Do they want an inspirational story? Yeah, they do. That's icing on the cake, though. They want, how do you help them make money, or save time? How do I help them do that? Through the inspiration of how I did it. So that doesn't mean go in and just talk about me. I actually have my story, their story. I put them together to create our story. Right. This is how I did it. And this is how your team could potentially transfer these skills, adopt these skills to do the same thing, to accomplish them, not shoot bombs or missiles over the desert. Same thing, but accomplish the mission, same thing, whatever your mission was. So for today, it was General Mills. It was their annual sales meeting with their sales team, and their goal is $3 billion by 2030, right? And to capture, not just grow top line revenue, but capture market share, right? But I know that stuff. Like I had a conversation with them, and now I'm able to work it in a seamless way with my story versus blank, plug and play, General Mills name here. That's just not.
So I was at the back of the room, and there were a number of, and I get to, my colleagues and I get to see a lot of speakers. So we get to sort of compare and contrast on how, and so it wasn't perfectly unique to you, but I think the combination was somewhat unique on how Vernice comes to the platform. And I like these conversations to be about the tradecraft of like, how do you build the keynote, and then what's your energy on the platform? So first off, the energy, the thing I really enjoyed was how there are instances when the keynoter is engaging in humor and there's sort of this kind of gratuitous laughter, but Vernice had the place like howling at several different times where it was like, there was nothing gratuitous about it. You'd hit that line, like when you called out the guy in the first row.
Right.
and you said, "Oh, you'll do,"
Right.
and the place you fractured there, and then there was like 2 minutes later there was a callback, and the place just you blew the roof off.
Do you know that was the first time I ever did the line "You'll do"?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, so that taps into something else. So
Yeah.
so first of all, the energy. There's a great deal. There were moments of poignance, and your volume was much lower, and you could hear a pin drop. And then there was raucous, so there was energy. There was like a call and response thing where they were like blowing the doors off the back of the ballroom. There was humor. There was sort of thoughtful resonance. It's a lot of different modes inside one. What was it, about 45 minutes?
60. It
Yeah.
ended up being let's say 55.
But there was a lot of different sort of
ups and downs.
ups and downs. And then the other thing, Vernice just said a minute ago, that's the first time I did that.
Yeah.
So the thing that I feel like really creates a lot of audience chemistry is you have so many reps and you have a lot of working memory available to be mentally available to have that audience connection and chemistry. You said several times, we're having a conversation.
Right.
And
Exactly.
it really felt like that.
Good, because that's my goal every time. And I call it listening to the audience, right? How am I listening to the audience? So when I was asking that one question of what was the most essential component that allowed us to complete that mission, right? And everybody's yelling out stuff, and I'm actually working off, it's almost like stand-up comedy, right? I'm working off of what the audience is saying.
You don't know what they're going to say.
No.
And the other cool thing that I really liked, sometimes again, back to gratuitous, you'll hear a keynoter say, well, what do you think about, and you can just tell by their body language, like, this is the part where I sit and pretend to listen. But you were pointing at people and you were really connected and absorbing what they told you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's fun, because you never know what somebody's going to say, right? And when I say, okay, yeah, actually a couple of people said, I heard somebody say planning and preparedness and training, and one person over here said missiles, and everybody over there knows they heard somebody say missiles. Right? So authenticity is absolutely the key. Like at the end, when I say I'm standing in line doing what I love to do, do you know what I love to do yet? Yeah. And somebody yelled out, eat. I was like, oh my God! That killed me. So I took a moment to address somebody says, I love to eat, right?
Sure.
That's probably, this 18 years in, that's just not going to happen again. Now somebody else might yell out something else, right? But
you have enough sort of power, personality, and spontaneity and presence that when that comes from the audience and you react in this 100% authentic way, audiences have a really good nose for that, and they can tell, like, no, this is the real Vernice we're getting. So I loved that. So the other thing, I could talk to Vernice for like hours about this, but the other thing that I thought was really, really cool was, yes, you had a very detailed conversation with event stakeholders and senior executives in advance, and really understood kind of the framework of like, why are we getting together, and what's the goal. You did a great job of absorbing that. But in the middle, and I was talking to some of the event producers after the program, and there was a moment where you were talking about part of your life experience,
right?
And it was about sort of pursuit of goal, and for I'll save the stories, but it was around being unstoppable and relentless.
Right.
And in the middle of this, Vernice turned around and she said, and it's about this. And you tapped the podium, the lectern, whatever it was, but there was a big word, relentless, on it, and you tapped it, and it was done so seamlessly and fluidly and genuinely. Do you remember it?
I do. I remember. Yeah.
But it was really done. It didn't have anything. There was nothing contrived about it. It was just, you were sort of, you had all of that sort of you had all of that mental energy to absorb into the theme and the audience, and it was really, really well done.
I appreciate you, Rich. I do, because to me that's the art the craft of it, the
Yeah.
skill of it, the mastering of it, right? And it's like medicine. You practice medicine.
Yep.
You practice the art of speaking because there's always a way to up-level your game. So over 18 years, you can imagine that I've had tornadoes, electricity go out, fire alarms, crying babies.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, telephone,
Right.
you know,
Right.
telephones. I'm totally dating myself.
Yeah.
Cell phones,
Right.
right? So rain with torrential downpours on a metal roof because we're on the top floor of whatever venue, right? So when I hear stuff like that and you see people in the audience like, oh, wow, like whatever it is, I have to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
right. So it's like, oh my God,
it's plain weird not to.
Right. And I've seen some speakers where they just talk a little louder to like, okay, we're going to ignore what's happening.
Yeah.
But I love it. It's almost like Toastmasters. In the very beginning, I had 3 Toastmasters groups because I wanted to speak in front of a live audience 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Every single week, right?
Right.
And I said, don't give me any fluffy stuff. I want the real feedback. At this point, I was still in the Marine Corps, and one woman raised her hand. She said, when you speak, you scare me.
Yeah. Right.
But that impromptu, table topic, at the beginning of Toastmasters, how here's a rock, now talk about it. Right. I love that. And in speaking today, or any day I'm on the platform, there's always something that's going to happen. And I am not a humorist. I'm not a humorous speaker. And I absolutely love funny crap, right? And I would have said a different word because I'm a Marine. But this is for a PG audience, right? I love funny stuff. So, and people love to laugh. People love to smile.
Right.
And that whole little, we laughed, we cried, right?
Yeah.
People go through every emotion, I believe, in my keynote. They have excitement, they have happiness, they have joy, they have funny, they have sadness, the part during my dad.
Yeah.
And my job is to take them through the range of emotionals, almost like this emotional roller coaster, and leave them on a high.
Yep.
Don't leave them down in the barrels. Unfortunately, I've seen that too.
Yeah.
And give them an experience that years later, they're still saying, remember that one speaker, Fly Girl? Because they don't remember my name.
Right.
I said that on stage. They're not gonna, but they're gonna remember Fly Girl. They're gonna remember the brand, and they're gonna remember the experience. I'm not delivering a message. It's a real moment. Right.
Well, we get to see a closing thought here. We get to see a lot of keynoters practice their craft, and you really you can instantly tell those that are not only have the reps, but also care about the trade craft and care about improvement and come to the platform with a very audience-centric perspective. It's about the audience, totally. As opposed to like, look at me. It's not about the presenter, it's about the audience experience, and that really comes through with you.
Thank you. Okay, now I get to ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
This is your first time seeing me, right?
Yes.
Experiencing. Because you don't stay at the Gaylord, you experience the Gaylord, right? If you've been to Gaylord Properties, which I know you have. What surprised you that you did not expect about watching me for the first time? Because I believe, people go to my website, they see my marketing materials, and honestly, I don't feel like my marketing materials do me justice on what you're going to get. They feel, motivational, military, Women's History Month. But what was your experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we've all had that experience where you go to a play, a movie, a performance of some kind, and you come out the backside of it and you're talking about how you're excited about it, and somebody says, well, what was so great about it? I don't know, you just had to be there. You had to experience it. So I think for you, the way you were able to sort of seamlessly stitch together the energy, the things that were happening live in the room, the audience feedback, that was all very, I guess the one word that I can sort of tag it with is cohesive. Everything, your energy, your presence, your idea, your thoughts, the interaction, the chemistry with the audience, it was all perfectly aligned. And that is not something that that's just something you need a lot of time on the platform to be able to execute and have that visceral sense of you need to, you need to move up, you need to move down, you're injecting humor at the right time. I just felt like the timing of it. And then I've said this, hundreds of times, and I think it's a common denominator with a lot of the best presenters is when you look like you're having fun and having a good time, the audience is having fun and having a good time. And you clearly love what you do.
Being an unemployed comedian. I mean, so you know who I think is the master at that? Les Brown.
Yeah.
When he laughs at one of his own jokes, it's like,
yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter if anybody else laughs or not.
Right.
He is going to laugh. Right. And I just love that about him. And I think I adopted that because I really do think I'm funny. Kind of like my daughter really thinks she's funny. And you just can't help but laugh at that. To add to what you said about the reps, every single story that I tell, every vignette, I could share it with you again right now, word for word. Mm-hmm. It's memorized inside and out.
Right.
So my job is to mess it up.
Sure.
And make it feel like a conversation, right? If we go back to how am I crafting the keynote. So I'm going to say something and I might say, or, Chip, what did you, right?
Well, you have
and stutter even like that, right?
Right. Well, and when you have that level of comfort down on the motherboard, the material is so familiar to you, it really opens up your brain to be able to kind of riff
flow
and insert things. And I feel like that's really what came, because it's really hard on a demo video, a sizzle reel to understand that. But when you're in the room and you have that granular sense of, oh, that was from the prep call. Oh, you were talking about the color of the cereal. That was from a conversation. And being able to weave all that together. And so spontaneously absorb all that stuff in advance and then spontaneously integrate it into what your material, the material you really, really know. That's probably the most important takeaway. Yeah.
This will be the most important question for me, the most valuable feedback. What is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? One thing that stood out to you that it's like, oh, wow, maybe she could have tweaked this or done this different, or this would take that up just a notch, like out of the 55 minutes or so.
I'm still in the glow of standing ovation. That's the other thing. Is sometimes, we'll be in audiences where it feels like kind of an obligatory standing O, like, I guess this is where we stand. But it was there was such affection for Vernice at the end of the program, and you had really honored the audience with the relevance and weaving it into their theme, and you were very present. So no, listen, nothing comes to mind, and that's not in a pandering way. You'd have to give me a minute to think about that. But
you can send me an email later, right?
But no, I just thank you for I guess let's hug it out. Thank you for all you do. And making us look good for recommending you.
Absolutely. And it's and this is not pandering here either, but it really is my honor to serve your clients and serve you at the same time, because I get to do both. And your reputation is on the line every time you recommend me to a client, every time that client says yes, and every time I get on that platform. I am representing you.
Well,
and that's relationship capital, and I don't take that lightly. So thank you for giving me the honor to serve you and your clients. It's a partnership all the way, and it's an ethos I brought from my family of having 3 brothers, the police department, Thin Line of Blue, the Marine Corps, Marines don't leave Marines behind, and I bring all of that we-ness to our relationship too. Yeah. So no, I don't take it lightly.
Well, it comes through, and it's what makes this industry so fun. So we appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Boom! Cleared up, baby! What? Killing it!